Resonance of Fate will probably go down in history as being the Japanese role-playing game with the most unfortunate release date. Going toe-to-toe with the Goliath that is Final Fantasy might not have been the best choice ever by a publisher. But those that do take a stab at this atypical RPG will find a game that throws tradition out of the window to offer a unique and strategic battle system, and little else. This game follows the lives of 3 young hunters, a band of hired guns that will take on any job so long as it pays. In this post-apocalyptic steampunk world where life can only survive inside of a massive tower in the sky, there's plenty of work to go around. It's the perfect setting for a set of unlikely heroes to meet their destiny. Unfortunately, the story never really goes anywhere. For much of the opening half of this over 40-hour game, you'll wonder if there's any story at all. Resonance of Fate is broken up into chapters, each containing a few side quests and one main job for the trio of heroes to perform. When the story does begin to pick up, it feels at total odds to the rest of the game's events. Overly dramatic flashbacks are coupled with tongue-in-cheek and immature slapstick humor in a way that just doesn't work very well. It doesn't help matters that Resonance of Fate is not the best looking or sounding game. Everything is very hit or miss, with more miss than hit. The world map is bland and boring to look at. The dungeons are built out of generic hexes and offer little room for exploration. The voice work ranges from the ubiquitous Nolan North of Uncharted fame delivering some good lines, to others with typically bad and over-the-top screeching. The battle system and world map are what give Resonance of Fate its personality. It may initially confuse even the most hardcore of gamers, especially if you decide to skip the tutorial. It's a system that places less emphasis on equipment acquisition and spellcasting, and much more on strategy, careful planning, and weapon customization. This is not a game that you can simply mash on the attack command and call it a day. It can be difficult, especially if you try to avoid grinding up some levels, skills, and weapon parts, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. Those that take the time to learn the ropes of careful positioning, alternating between machine gun and handgun attacks, and striking at weaknesses will find a lot to like here. It's all turn-based at its heart, but still manages to feel action-packed. Just build up some resonance and dish out a team tri-attack and you'll see what I mean. It's a nice twist on the turn-based systems we so often see. The most disappointing part of Resonance of Fate for me is the fact that the battle system never evolves. Nothing new is offered to keep things fresh from start to finish. In fact, through many of the later chapters it devolves by stripping out characters for vast swaths of the game, effectively removing the team resonance attacks that made everything fun in the first place. Resonance of Fate is built for those that are okay with repeating those same fights over and over and over. There isn't a huge amount of variety in enemy types, most simply level up alongside you to maintain a high level of difficulty. The static and repetitive nature of it all left me bored with how similar most fights felt by the end of the game. It all felt like it peaked at about the halfway mark. One aspect that I found interesting the whole way through is the way Resonance of Fate's world map works. Players are required to collect energy hexes to open up new areas, dungeons, and bonus fights. This gives slightly more of a sense of purpose to the grind as it allows players to harvest items and explore new areas and a few new towns along the way. In the end, Resonance of Fate might be just a bit too hardcore and unorthodox for its own good. This is not your standard Japanese role-playing game, and it isn't just the focus on guns as weapons that sets it apart. Still, it won't go down in history as a particularly memorable RPG, and the chances it takes miss often enough that many gamers may simply be turned off by the relative lack of story and a battle system that never evolves. If you think of yourself as a hardcore RPG player, then this one might be right up your alley. For more on Resonance of Fate, head to IGN.com.